I will now call the meeting, the Planning Commission meeting for April 26, 2021 to order. We'll start with the invocation. Father, thank you for filling every seat here this evening with people of goodwill and open hearts and minds. Help guide us in making good and wise decisions that are in the best interest of the citizens of Canby. In your name, amen. Let's have the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Dawn or Brianna, do we have any citizen input on non-agenda items that you know of?
We have not received any.
Okay. Yeah, but we do have the Planning Commission minutes for March 28th.
March 8th.
So I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved. This is Jason.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, James. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? It looks like we have no new business. So let's move on to the public hearing. So to testify, please, well, I think that people know to send their name and phone number and email address to the Planning Commission public comments. So today we are going to consider a proposal to subdivide a 4.45 acre parcel into 15 single-family lots for phase 4 of Northwood Estates subdivision, SUB 21-01. Excuse me. Tonight, there is a matter before the hearing body that requires a public hearing. All questions must be directed through the chair, and the evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable review criteria contained in the staff report, the comprehensive plan, or other land use regulations which the person believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. At this time, I would ask that any member of the hearing body who has a conflict of interest, please indicate the nature and extent of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from hearing the present matter.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yes, Jason.
So I live, my property actually is right behind the third phase of this development. And I have worked with Kurt McLeod, who is part of this project, with some of my neighbors, getting their fences repaired and replaced when that phase of development was done. I've also logged complaints personally regarding 2 of the properties that were developed as part of phase 3. And at one point in time, Kurt and I had a discussion about possibilities of what this final phase of the project might look like. And so in an excess of caution, I will be abstaining from the discussion and the vote on this particular development.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, I also live very close to this property in question, and my great aunt also, shares an adjacent property boundaries, but I don't think that it is anything that should preclude me from being able to participate. So I do plan on participating.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Also, if any member of the hearing body has had any ex parte contact with anyone prior to this hearing, including a visit to the site, please declare the nature and extent of such contact at this time. We've already heard from Commissioner Patton and Commissioner Heeb.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Hutchinson.
Yes,
I live in several blocks to the northwest or northeast of this area and walk my dog through the neighborhood. But my property, it doesn't abut this area, but I do share traffic space as everyone does. So other than that, nothing further.
okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. First, we'll have the staff report. Don, who will be giving that for the staff tonight?
That will be Brianna.
Okay. Then we'll have the staff report. We'll have questions by the hearing body. Then I will open the public hearing for testimony and the applicant, followed by the other proponents, opponents, if any, and rebuttal if necessary. That time I will close the public hearing. We will entertain more questions. And a decision shall be made by us at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. And this will be the only notice of that date that you will receive. Any questions? Okay. So let's start with our staff report.
Wonderful.
Brianna.
Good. Yes. Hello. Good evening, Planning Commissioners, Chair Savory. My name is Brianna. I'm an associate planner with the City of Canby, and I will be discussing today the subdivision Northwood Estates Phase 4. Here are the subject properties. It's a total of 3 tax lots for 4.45 acres. It is zoned and surrounded by R1, low density residential zone. The existing house is to be moved or demolished, and this is the last phase of the Northwood Estates Master Plan. The Northwood Estates Master Plan was originally developed in 2005. The approval actually went through in 2007, but it was submitted in 2005, and it established 4 phases, 31.5 acres, 110 lots, and it also established the development agreement for all 4 phases. This is phase 1. It was 12.8 acres and 41 lots. It also included a 1.47 acre park, and a traffic study was conducted. This was done in 2005. This was the first phase. Phase 2 was done in 2013. It was 10.3 acres, 33 lots. It included a 0.91 acre park, and it did have its own traffic study. This was the largest phase of the development, or excuse me, the second largest. The first phase was the largest. Phase 3 was done in 2017. It was 5 acres, 21 lots, and it supplied a traffic memo to supplement the complete traffic study done for phase 2. And now here we are, phase 4, the last phase in the Northwood Estates Master Plan. Here's the original configuration from the 05 approval. You can see it did not include that lower lot, lower tax lot 300, we call it. So this was proposed 3.45 acres, still with 15 lots. And you can see it had 3 stub streets to be developed at, a time uncertain. And particularly lot 103 and 107, I just noticed that would not be compliant for today's standards. But I did want to mention that in the 05 approval, phase 4 required a traffic study that should address internal circulation and future external street connections. And so now, 2021, we come and tax lot 300 has been acquired and included in the plan for a total of 4.45 acres. And again, the home will just be demolished or moved. And now we can see There are no stub streets to external networks. We are still seeing 15 lots, the same number of lots provided in the master plan. The average lot size is still in compliance with the R1 zone. They are 9,800 square feet average. And the rule is it needs to be between 7,000 and 10,000 square feet. We do have one oversized lot, lot 110 is just a little bit oversized, but it's because they need to meet frontage width requirements. And again, the average lot size is within our range for the R1. You can see, again, North Douglas is connecting, and they are also providing a connection option to the existing church. It's not currently connected, but should the church want to pursue that, they are providing that. Again, 15 lots, average lot size is in compliance, and we did require a transportation analysis letter. So to discuss that further, our transportation analysis was prepared by City Consulting Transportation Engineer DKS Associates. And these are the primary findings. The proposed roadway will provide adequate circulation to the surrounding existing roadway network and internally within the site. These streets will safely accommodate additional vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle trips. Number 2, proposed street configuration, access spacing, and site distance are consistent with the City of Canby standards and are adequate for the site. Number 3, the proposed site is estimated to generate an additional 11 trips in the morning peak period, 15 trips in the evening peak period, and 142 total daily trips. The threshold for a full traffic study is 25 plus peak trips, either in the morning or the evening, and 300 plus daily trips. So you can see that this is, below half of what the threshold for a full traffic study would be. And we do feel like the analysis provided by DKS is sufficient. Here are the approval criteria. They are pretty standard to our subdivision standards. Off-street parking, addressing the R1 standards, the applications, street alignments, which we did address. And the Northwood Estates Development Concept Plan. So again, we saw how they took that into consideration and evolved it to the current situation. We did receive several comments. The agency comments included consulting engineer Pat Sissel of Sissel Engineering and also our public works staff. Those are incorporated in the staff reports and the conditions of approval. We also received public comments. We received 3 public comment, well, 4, 2 from the same household, but we received 4 public comments before the written cutoff date of the 14th. But we did receive additional public comments, and we'll be discussing those as well. You can read the full public comments in the staff report, but we identified 4 primary concerns from all of these comments. The first was traffic speed and volume. Particularly, we saw Birch Street accessing onto 10th Ave is a concern for people. Storm drainage, particularly on 9th Avenue. It seems to have a history of flooding. There is an issue with the electric utility in the area. Reported outages have happened in the past. And we did receive some comment over concern of quality of life in terms of compatibility and capacity, suitability of these lots in the area. So to address our traffic speed and volume, we reached out again to DKS for additional notes in response to the public comments. And again, we need to reiterate that the threshold of 25 plus peak trips and 300 plus daily trips, that is the minimum threshold that we need to see to establish any nexus for physical traffic calming elements, particularly off-site. I need to mention that Birch Street is not directly adjacent. 10th Street does take access off of Birch Street, but is not directly attached to the subject property. And further analysis showed actually that less than 10 vehicles per day will be traveling north on Birch Street. and there will be less than 3 daily trips on Birch Street. And I know that's kind of confusing, but I did include down at the end here. The daily trips include trips entering the existing site, exiting the existing site, and it's just that either the destination on one end or the other will be somewhere within this site. So I know that's kind of, not the most straightforward way to kind of explain this, but the take home is that this will add 3 or less daily trips on Birch Street. The rest of the vehicles traveling north will be heading to the east. We heard some concerns about speeding, particularly on Birch. And the posted speed on all neighborhood streets actually is supposed to be 25 miles per hour. And the operational speed, particularly on Birch Street, is 28 miles per hour. What that means, operational speed is how fast you could be going and still feel comfortable, kind of how the road is built. So, we could have a street that says 25 miles an hour, but if it's, 20-foot wide lanes, we feel comfortable speeding right down that. The operational speed on Birch Street was designed to be 28 miles per hour, less than 30 miles per hour. So, of course, there are going to be people speeding. We completely understand that. But, the street was designed to match the neighborhood classification of the street. Okay, storm drainage. We discussed the storm drainage with consulting engineer Pat Sissel, as well as our public works crew. A 2006 stormwater drainage plan was approved by DEQ, as the State Department of Environmental Quality. With the first phase of the subdivision, it covered all 4 phases. Each new lot will have on-site storm drainage and infiltration, as is customary with all new subdivisions in Canby. Street runoff will drain into newly installed dried wells required for the development. Catch basin inlets are interior to the site. They will be adjacent to lot 109 and 102. It kind of all drains to the center of the site. City of Canby Public Source staff assert that the previous phases of Northwood Estates have installed the same infrastructure proposed for phase 4 and have not had operational problems upon inspections. And lastly, the overall drainage issue on 9th Ave seems to be existing, but our analysis has shown that the issue will not be exacerbated by the proposed development specifically. The electric utility, I hadn't heard of this one before. Canby Utility is an independent provider. We are obviously more than happy to work with them with any, access to the right of way they need. But we do not regulate distribution of the electric utility. The new subdivision will be served with its own newly installed transformers. We're not taking demand from any existing transformers. All of the utilities will be installed along with, all of the subdivisions. Okay, lastly, quality of life. We received, does it fit with the community? We're worried about privacy, and really just the, the perceived density. But, we do want to assure everybody, the Northwood Estates subdivision has been under development since 2007, and we've, seen it been reviewed for each phase. Again, there's 4 phases, and each of them have worked out wonderfully upon inspections and things like that, people moving in. The number of proposed lots has remained the same, 15 lots. And they're all well above the minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet. And this is in consideration of the existing neighborhood. Again, they're under the maximum, so they meet our standards, but they are well above the minimum in line with the current neighborhood. Again, the zoning for the lots and all around the lots are R1, low family residential. It's all the same zoning. The circulation has been improved from the original master plan. And specifically, 2 of the issues identified in the original approval have been addressed, particularly by connecting that street. And our traffic impact specifically for phase 4 has been quantified. Okay, so for the comments we received several comments today. And of course, you know, staff is doing our best to address them. And I believe we have most, if not all of these people here today to follow up with their comments. So that's wonderful. But we did try to address the comments as best we could with our limited time. So we got 2 comments before noon, which we were able to respond to. Excuse me. Okay. I'm also admin. I wanted to make sure it was recording. Okay. Okay. So our comments for the 2 additional public comments, which was sent to the planning commissioners in advance. I do hope you got to read them. We just need to assert again that no nexus has been identified from the impact of phase 4, the proposed development, to require installation of off-site traffic calming infrastructure. Again, less than 3 daily trips will be on Birch. And we heard most of the issues originating from Birch, and I understand that those are existing issues, but again, this specific development, less than 3 daily trips will be added onto Birch Street. We did receive one suggestion that we did think is pretty viable, and we would like to suggest it to Planning Commission, the suggestion of a crosswalk on Northwest 10th Avenue. We feel this is appropriate because it connects phases 1 through 3 with phase 4. It provides pedestrian access to the parks developed under previous phases. It supports increased pedestrian connectivity as identified in our TSP. The cost of installation is comparable perceived impact, which is low. And it is a response to a direct impact of the proposal. People who live in phase 4 will need to directly access to the north of Northwest 10th Avenue to go to those parks, to visit, you know, their neighbors, things like that. So here's the condition of approval that we are recommending you adopt into the final findings today. Before final plat approval, the applicant shall be responsible for installing a pedestrian crosswalk on Northwest 10th Avenue, connecting phase 4 with the previous phases of the Northwood Estates master plan. The applicant shall work with City Public Works staff to establish dimensional requirements and exact location of the crosswalk. We received an additional comment after noon, so we did our best again to incorporate it here. The comment was a concern about a driveway for lot 96 accessing directly onto 10th Avenue. This person would like to see a flag lot access to be considered to the south, going through lot 105. You can see this was done off of Northwest 12th Avenue, which is, I believe, a cul-de-sac, and it was done for a few lots in phase 2. So I did some research. Restricted access to North Elm was a condition of approval for the original subdivision back in 05, and it was also included in their CCNRs. It was very specific as to it named the lot numbers that had restricted access onto Elm. There was no condition restricting any sort of access onto Northwest 10th Avenue or any other streets that I saw, frankly. And access spacing standards will be addressed at site plan review for individual lots for, you know, site distance in terms of safety. And you can see here the subject properties to the south undeveloped, and phase 2 of Northwood Estates is accessing onto Northwest 10th Avenue. So with this, I don't think staff deems it completely necessary, but it is within your purview to discuss. Okay, so based on the application submitted and the facts, findings, and conclusions of the staff report, planning staff recommends that the commission move to approve application SUB 2101, subject to the identified conditions of approval. And with that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Brianna. Any questions from commissioners? Typically, we start with Commissioner Mills, and we will not make an exception Commissioner Mills. You're
Uh,
up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brianna, I'm curious, has any kind of plat, lot sizing, dimensional information been provided to staff? Because I wasn't able to find anything, you know, that tells me how big the lots are. We've got a summary statement from you that says the average is 98 or 9,900 and that there's one oversized lot. But typically, I'd say almost consistently, we usually get lot size information in a preliminary plat, and I wasn't able to find any of that.
The dimensional items are included in the utility preliminary site plan. So it's in the applicant materials. It's on the utility plan.
What page is that?
12. It's page 12.
Page 12. I'm on page 12, but I'm looking at text. I'm not seeing that. In our package, page 12 of 142 is a discussion of access limitations and project density.
Yes.
So I'm not seeing detailed dimensional information on the lots.
Let me just pull up the packet as you're seeing it.
I see where the traffic engineer had more detailed information in his section, but still didn't give size.
Yeah, it looks like it's in text under facts and findings. That's where it talks about the largest lots, smallest lots. So on.
That's not, that's just statements from the applicant. There's no information here to review. I'm saying this is not typically what's done. I've never seen one with this little information on a subdivision. And so I'm pretty uncomfortable with what's been provided here.
Okay. Let me go ahead and share the materials directly.
Brianna, this is Kurt McLeod. If I could contribute here, we actually turned in a preliminary plat. It's item number 3 in our application packet. So I don't know if you have the complete application packet there, but you do have a preliminary plat that shows all the bearings, distances, areas, the works. So it was item number 3 in our packet that was submitted.
Here, okay, here it is. Resharing. So I'm very sorry if this was not included, but it was included in the application materials.
You know, section 1656 requires the planning commission to review this information. It needs to be in our package. I mean, we're bound by code. That's our responsibility to review and approve this. And it can't be left out of the package.
I understand.
So having said that, hate to cut this short, but if it's required to be in the packet and it's not in the packet, can we even move forward this evening?
Yeah, there's another plot plan on page 53 also.
If 53 is the one that I've been relying on to get a flavor for what's there, but there's no dimensional information at all. There's no information that tells us how the street transition on Douglas is going to occur. And, you know, there's no way for us to look at this as representatives of the public and say, yeah, we've seen this, citizens, and we think it's a good idea and everything here is good. We can't say that. And, you know, that's our job.
I agree with Mr. Mills, Commissioner Mills.
I agree with
Um,
Commissioner Mills as well.
Okay, we can continue the meeting.
We can or cannot.
We can.
Okay. But at the end of the day, at the end of this, when we vote for approval or not, this is what's going to, this will come up. And
We will provide this to you immediately after this meeting, and you will have time to review it before your next planning commission meeting, where we will discuss this again.
Great. Thank you,
okay.
Brianna.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Mills?
You know, I don't see, Mr. Chair, I don't see how I can ask more than that of staff. Overall, they've done an excellent job here. I've just,
Yes.
you know, I feel like a real scrounge here, Scrooge, having to bring this stuff up, but because, you know, it's overall, it's a really good job, but I guess what I'm kind of weighing this against, you've been doing this a long time too. And I was trying to recall where I haven't seen this kind of information in a package, and it may have happened, but I honestly can't remember it in my 10 years. So, and that's 2 years from Canby and eight in Eugene. So I'm just trying to go and make sure, and then just to make sure I wasn't overkilling this, I went back to our code and 1656-020 scope of regulation, subdivision plats and minor major partition maps shall be reviewed by the commission in accordance with these regulations. It's the first sentence in that section. So I think I'm not overkilling this, but I'm going to also defer to the other members of the commission because, you know, I don't want to just stop everything dead. Overall, I think this is a good development, and I think it's going to contribute, and it's an appropriate use of the land. And so but having said that, part of what our job is to make sure that the plat looks like the plat's going to be.
Okay, any other comments from other commissioners? Commissioner Hutchinson.
I'm the kind of guy that lives and dies by prints. It's kind of a 30-year professional arc for me, and this package just did seem a little light on them, and I was going to ask about it. I certainly didn't go so far as to look in the city code for reasons for them to be included, but you know, it did feel light compared to what I was used to.
Okay. Commissioner Trendy, what are your thoughts?
My question is there any lots in this development that are below the required minimum? I know we have the average size, and I know we have an oversized lot, but are there any that are below the minimum?
No.
No. So my question then is, not seeing the actual dimensions of each individual lot, is that going to make a difference to the other commissioners in making a decision on this? If we can see the layout of each of the lots, we can see the size in relation to each other, and we know that they meet the code.
Yeah, this is James. Yeah, I'm think we're good to move forward. Then again, I'm new, but I could by looking at the different pages, as far as like the ones that on page 12, then the one on 50, and then the one on 120, and being able to see the different ratios and knowing basic drafting and floor plans, etc. I could put those dimensions together. It would be nice to have a copy like Miss Brianna has it kind of laid out foot by foot, but it's I didn't have to see this exact diagram to extrapolate the same information.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Hutchinson again.
Yes,
My tendency is to agree that this development is obviously the final chapter and a list of one that it all fits together. And again, I agree with Commissioner Mills that there's nothing wrong with the development at all. But you know, the fact that the city code is making a point that we have to review these things and yet we haven't, can we consider what we have seen here to be a review that we can then have a vote during this meeting? Is that possible?
And I think that was my point, is if we can see that it meets the code, and if we can count this as reviewing it, I don't know that anybody's going to get out their calculator, with the exception possibly of Commissioner Mills, and add up the dimensions of all of the lots. But I think that, you know, we do have a responsibility to the city and to the community, but also things need to happen in a timely manner when things do come before the planning commission and the planning department. And I don't see that there's anything in here that would violate the code and be able to be not approved based on that, just based on the lot. I'm not going to go into other parts of the development, as somebody might have something else to say there, but I think that this should count as a sufficient review. If it was something where, you know, we had one lot that was way oversized and we had like 4, 5,000 square foot lots or something that was a problem, I think that's different. But I think seeing the ratios of the lots together and reviewing them and knowing that the average size is, 9,800 square feet, that I think that should be sufficient for review. And I think that any level of appeal, if we're to go forward, having worked at Luba, I don't see that they would say, oh, yep, that violated the code, so that shouldn't have been approved.
okay. I tend to agree with that, Commissioner Trundy. And I agree that it's a well thought out plan, and it's the end game for this particular development. So Brianna, you're going to provide that information to us so that we can review it at the next meeting. Is that what you were saying?
If you feel that reviewing it now is not sufficient, we can stop deliberation and continue the meeting to a date certain. I will provide this to you right after the meeting, and you'll have at least 2 weeks, maybe a month to review it. And then we will meet again. If you feel that you can review it here, then we can take the time to do that. And then I can send this to you afterwards, but the decision will be made tonight.
Okay.
Commissioner Savory, this is Don Hardy. I just wanted to add to this, and perhaps with the commissioner's discussion tonight, I think the substantive nature of this, I think Brianna could summarize the lots that are in compliance with city code. I don't believe there's any variation to the code that's being requested here, and these lots are oversized. So I think we could go through the substantive review tonight. Brianna, if you could give as an alternative, give a summation of each lot, and just, you can do an overview of that. I think that could satisfy the record here for these. I would hate to see that the omission of that item. I think we can mitigate that by going through that tonight. This is not like there's a whole bunch of variations to the code. And if anything, this development is actually exceeding the standards. Most of the time we're seeing development squeezing lots down, which is a far greater concern to staff than lots that are larger.
Yeah, absolutely. All of these lots meet dimensional standards for R1, which is 60 frontage width. And the only lot that is oversized, again, is lot 110 in the corner here, and that is specifically to meet that lot width requirement of exactly 60 feet. All of the roads are standard neighborhood layouts. No exceptions have been requested. And they are all standard lots, and I'm looking up all the values now, and they all meet our standards. Again, our range is 7,000 to 10,000 square feet per lot.
Okay. Commissioner Mills, does that work for you?
I'm gonna say that it does work for me, Mr. Chair. I encourage staff.
You're not allowed to do that. And you need to leave
Sorry.
it alone.
I guess,
I'm getting two voices, a tale of two voices.
yeah, I got that. I'll try that again. I was gonna say that I think what the planning director is proposing works for me, and I think the information that Brianna has provided in this case, I think is sufficient. I would encourage them in the future to try to make sure this stuff's included, so we have time to review it. I don't want to hold the world up here, and I think, you know, all the points that have been made are fair. So in that sense, I would not let this hold up my voting to approve this development tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Trundy, would you agree with that?
Yes, I think that that's the most prudent decision, is to go ahead and count this as the review and move forward with the rest of the staff report and any other questions.
Do any other of the other commissioners feel otherwise? Okay. Brianna, thank you so much. Any additional questions for staff from commissioners before we move on to the applicant?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have one, and but I'll defer to Mr. Heath here first.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, my biggest concerns are the crosswalks. I know that, well, between the intersection of 10th and Birch, and then there's, you know, I know it's 9th Street and Birch is also going to tie into this fourth phase. And then like that intersection on 10th and Birch is already bad enough. And I know that's not exactly in the purview of this plan. There will be increased traffic there. It's were you saying that crosswalk's going to be located at the intersection of Birch and 10th or down the way?
I don't know the exact location, but I believe it will be mid-block, serving primarily the subdivision, but all, you know, obviously accessible to all. I don't think it will be at the intersection of Birch and 10th, just because, again, it's not immediately attached to this development. It's actually, you know, a lot over. So to require what we call off-site improvements, you know, that's a greater nexus that we don't see here.
All right. Yeah, it's just, I was reading, trying to pull it up real quick. I believe it was Mr. Coleman's comment, who's also on the Transit Advisory Committee. And he mentioned that it would be affecting the Birch Street intersection with the increased flow, and that it's already bad right there.
Right.
I know they came out in front of my house and hung up some wires and some sensors, because I'm right around the corner from that intersection, and there's kids that live on the corners, and they're constantly trying to cross the road. And whenever they do try to cross the road, there's people that swing wide to cut it onto 10th, and having these additional residences is only going to further that problem. And if this project is, you know, or when it is approved or whatnot, it would be good to be planning on something for that intersection of 10th and Birch, because I don't want to see anybody's kids run over there, and I sure don't want to see my kids run over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why we went back to DKS and asked specifically about that intersection, because we know that there are some existing issues. And you know, Kevin said that all of the traffic will generally be going south and east. Again, only adding 3 trips specifically on Birch. But I completely understand what you're saying. And, the crosswalk immediately adjacent to the property, I think, is the most direct solution to the impact of this development. But we have heard several comments about, the general safety of this area. And we've reached out to Public Works to discuss this area more in general. But again, we are just limited to the purview of this specific development, but we do
All right.
understand that.
And when were those traffic studies done? Because from what I was reading, it looked like these were being based off of previous stages data. So has there been any update? Because if you base it
So-
off 2017 numbers,
So DKS is traffic memo is using all current data.
all right. And I think that was all that I had for the time being. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Heap. Any further comment before we move on to the applicant? Okay. Yes. Commissioner
I
Mills.
guess, yes, I was going to ask, in the application, it shows the applicant's representative as being Hisam Ibrahim.
Yes,
I believe he is also the city engineer for
he is
the city.
typically, the city engineer.
So
We
there's-
had, I'm sorry.
My question is, is who are we going to use for a city engineer to represent the city of Canby on this package?
So Pat Sissel of Sissel Engineering has been reviewing this for us and will continue to review it for us.
Okay, so he's not in the firm related to Mr. Ibrahim's firm, correct?
No. No, he
Okay, so
owns his own. small firm.
Different engineer, different firm. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Excellent job. We'll move along to the applicant, and who is going to represent the applicant this evening?
I believe it will be Kurt.
Had to figure out how to unmute. Yeah, I'm Kurt McLeod.
If you could state your name, address, and
I'm Kurt McLeod. I live at 1120 Northwest 12th Avenue in Canby. I'm also one of the principals of Curran McLeod Engineers. We've been providing city engineering services for 20 to 30 years, I'd say. We started in the late 80s, but it became more formal after that. I have had this same discussion with planning commissions 4 times now over the years with each application. And the city has always hired another firm just to review all of our work. Kennedy Jenks reviewed the first few phases, and they're having Sissel engineers review this phase. So I've always been clear to the city council and the planning commission of my personal ownership and our firm involvement with the city. So I appreciate that. Brianna has presented most everything that I had on my little list to give an overview. A couple of little things that I was going to add was, first of all, the owners. I put that in the application, but we're all a Canby group. The partners in the Northwood Investments include Ron Tatone, Lyle Reed, who owned Reed Benz Insurance for years in town, Fred Cahoot, who had Canby Disposal in town, died a few years ago, so his wife Nancy fills that role now. And then Dr. Lynn Cadwell is a partner, so he was a doctor at the Canby Medical Clinic until he retired. We started this, as Brianna mentioned, the first phase was in 2007. However, we bought the property in the late 80s. So we worked through a lot of applications, several trips to Luba, working with all the neighbors to come up with a plan that the neighborhood was happy with, beginning in the late 1980s. The only comment I wanted to make about the lot layout was that in our CC&Rs, we were going to require access to all the lots that are feasible from the internal street. So we were only going to allow access to 10th Street for lot number 96. The others will all have internal access. So beyond that, I'm thankful you're taking it upon tonight to review the plat. Appreciate that. Our intent is simply to provide lots before, in late fall. I'd like to have lots available for people to potentially frame before the winter rains are. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
any questions from any of the commissioners? for the applicant.
Yeah, I suppose one other was a sidewalk situation. It looked like along the road there that it looked like the sidewalks were supposed to be done a house by house basis, if I understood that correctly. And so how long could there potentially be empty lots and without a sidewalk for extended periods of time? Or is there a plan in case a lot sits empty so that, you know, people can have a continuous sidewalk?
No, that's actually been the standard in Canby, is the developers always do the sidewalks. It may be something we want to address. I don't mind doing it. When you do the sidewalks, they tend to get damaged during the home construction, and they don't know where the driveways go. So those have been the main reason where sidewalks are typically built by the builder, the home builder. And in fact, I'm not familiar with a single development, and I've been involved in Canby's development for 30 plus years, and I haven't seen a development where they actually build the sidewalks beforehand. Let me add though, I wrote down a couple of notes here that I forgot to mention. First of all, that I guess I mentioned the driveway access and the city engineering, but the third comment was the sidewalk access crossing 10th Street. So we certainly intend to put crosswalks, ADA ramps we'll have them at both of our street connection to 10th Street. I don't think Cedar Loop, which is the main east-west road there, I don't believe Cedar Loop, I don't know that we would want a crosswalk across 10th there, but if the Public Works Department wants that, it's no problem, we can get that. The challenge would be to retrofit an ADA ramp on the north side of 10th. We do have a crosswalk planned for Douglas Street, where the short street will hit, and we will have crosswalks there. We have ADA ramps that will be on all four corners. I'm also have always been concerned about the access to the park. If you notice, when you go look at the long narrow park that has the one-way roads, there's no ADA ramp at the end of the park. So at the south end of that long island, there's no way that a handicapped person would be able to get off the sidewalk. So I will work with Public Works Department to get that resolved too. I think we should have had an ADA ramp at the south end of that island. But I'm happy to work with Public Works just to make sure that we get the crossing improvements wherever we need them.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions, Commissioner Heath?
No, I think that was it. I know there's multiple places in town where there's breaks in sidewalks, and so you go from being on a sidewalk to walking almost in a lane of traffic, and I think that it would be good to like plan ahead so that doesn't happen anymore. So
But does the explanation that he
yeah, that's
provided make sense?
yes.
I think,
Thank you.
I think it does, yes. Commissioner Mills, do you have any questions for the
No,
applicant?
sir, I do not.
Well, that's cause for, I don't know, celebration or something, I don't know.
You, Mr. Chair.
You always have a question. Any further questions for the applicant? Okay. Brianna, are there any other proponents that you know of that would like to speak?
I do know we have a member of the public. I don't know if I would call him a opponent, or just a commenter. His name is Robert Cambra, and he's here with us now.
Okay, let's hear from Mr. Canberra. Mr. Canberra, if you could state your name and address.
You're muted.
Bob, you're muted.
Sorry about that, folks. My name is Bob Cambra. I live at 1338 North Maple here in Canby. I'm not necessarily a opponent or pro this development. I have some concerns that I just want to talk to you about. I provided the comments. I'm sorry they might have gotten to you late. It took me a while to get them all together. The data that I provide, and I want to direct you to that data if you choose to look at it, provides a lot of traffic data. And that data is very current. It was gathered through the digital speed sign data from the Public Works. And what it shows is something that we're talking about today is, I believe that there is more traffic occurring on Northwest 10th than our traffic studies seem to imply. My quick read of this is that there is at least 400 something trips on a daily basis traveling toward Birch and away toward Holly on Northwest 10th. That's before the development added daily trips are onto there. That by itself is a good size traffic flow on Northwest on 10th. And also in the data, it shows that there is what people have come to some citizens have come to the Canby Traffic Safety Commission with concerns about speeding on Northwest 10th and quick turns from Birch onto 10th. The data seems to show that there is a good deal of speeding, not sizable, but consistent. At least 10% of the traffic on a daily basis is traveling at over 6 miles per hour. And there is a number of traffic, 2 or 3 cars a day, 4 cars a day, traveling at over 11 miles an hour on that way. The additional houses that are being proposed, adding 100 something trips a day, will increase that kind of traffic flow. And what I am recommending is that we consider and ask the developer to share a share of the cost of adding digital speed signs to this particular roadway. And to consider the implementation of a traffic island at the corner of Birch and 10th to slow down. Those traffic islands are similar to the ones that they have at the corner of Birch and Territorial. If you've ever driven down there, you can see what I'm talking about, a traffic island. It sort of slows the radius. It reduces the radius for a person to make a turn. And that by itself makes somebody slow down and make that turn so they don't go into the next lane and continue at a hard race of speed. Why I'm asking the developer to share this cost is because their number of homes within this small section of traffic of roadway will increase the traffic impact and on the quality of life of the 15 homes that are going to be there. So I'm not asking him to share all of the costs for these 2 objects, but to share some of the mitigating costs that might be, and ask him to work with Public Works to see if there is some way to implement these 2 recommendations. I also wanted to briefly, one of the comments that was made during the study was somebody saying that they should do a 4-way stop at Birch and Northwest 10th. I included some data to address that for your own information, where most traffic studies say that for you to consider implementing a 4-way stop, you need to have a ratio between the 2 streets of about 2/3 traffic flow. In other words, the traffic flow needs to be somewhat similar, at least a 2/3 ratio. Our count, the Public Works count of these 2 traffic flows indicate that Northwest 10th only has about 25% of the traffic that is on Birch. That by itself tells you that implementing a 4-way stop at that intersection would not be in anyone's best interest, because it could cause some problems with people starting to get frustrated and ignoring a 4-way stop, which could be dangerous. So I throw that data out to you just as a point of edification. And I wish you will consider asking the developer to participate in putting some digital signs and a traffic island there to help create the atmosphere and safety for the community and his new developing community too. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Do any commissioners have any questions? Or
Oh, I'd like to say thank you for your comment there. I've been real curious about the impact of a four-way stop myself. And you obviously, I looked over your research and it very thorough. Yeah, so thank you for your input. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
any other comments?
Chair Savory, this is Jason.
Yes, Jason?
This is not for or against anything, but I just thought I would provide some historical information regarding some of these conversations around the traffic calming on North Birch Street, if that's all right.
I would say, go ahead.
So originally, several years ago, back when I first moved on to Birch Street about 10 or maybe 12 years ago, there had been discussions of doing bump outs as traffic calming at the intersection of Northwest 10th and Birch Street. Those have been in the plan. Those have been taken out of the plan. I have always been a proponent of them continuing to be in the plan. One of the other comments from a concerned citizen, Sarah, was regarding the speed humps on North Birch Street and the comment about them not being in between Knightsbridge and 9th Avenue. I don't know if that information is anywhere around now because most of those people are gone that was part of that. But from what I remember of the whole speed hump conversation, the reason there were no speed humps between those two streets was because the speed humps were meant to dissuade people from taking North Birch down to Territorial, and the likelihood of someone turning from North Birch onto 9th Avenue and then snaking their way through those developments to get to Territorial would not be advantageous to them, so they would not do it. That is, from what I understand, remember, that is the reason why there are no speed humps on that section of the road. And then regarding the sort of the sporadic nature of the speed humps, back when they were originally slated to be put on the street, there were quite a few that were in the original plan, but one of the stipulations was if you were a resident on the street and you had a speed hump slated for in front of your house, you had to approve it. And so if you wanted the speed hump, but your neighbor didn't want it, then there was going to be no speed hump in front of your house or on that section. And so that is why when you go down North Birch, there's spots where there are humps and then there's spots where there's quite a bit of distance in between them. It's because those individuals chose not to have a hump in front of their house.
I think that there was also the issue coming from the fire department that speed humps are they don't like them very much for their emergency fire vehicles. For whatever reason, I can't remember what the reason was, but the fire department was against the speed humps to begin with, but we got them, and there you have it. So, and I do remember, Commissioner Patton, that you are correct about the nature of why they are sporadic. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we move along? Okay. Brianna, are there any opponents that you know of that would like to speak?
I see no other speakers.
Okay. Then we can go back to the applicant or to, was Pat Sissel going to speak? Do
No,
you know?
he's not here. Mm-mm.
Oh, he's not here. Okay. Then is there any rebuttal from the applicant that you have an opportunity?
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. We read the concerns of the neighborhood too in the letters that were submitted. I thought the intersection that I drive this Birch Street every day, and I thought the intersection of Birch and Knightsbridge Road would, in my mind, be a great candidate for an all-way stop. Although I know there's a lot of traffic on Knightsbridge, I don't know if the ratio of Birch to Knightsbridge would warrant an all-way stop, but that's a very difficult intersection to get out of. The comment about contributing cost to a traffic island, that's a very minor item. I can work with Public Works about that. I would want to relate to you the history of what we have built. 10th Street is a neighborhood connector, so it's a 40-foot curb to curb. When we looked at the traffic loads that our subdivision was adding, there's nothing more that you could do because it's already a high volume road by design, that 40-foot curb to curb. At the time in 2005, when we started this project, we proposed that to be a 40-foot neighborhood connector. And at the time, there was an SDC credit involved with the oversized component of that. Well, it just a little bit irked me in that, unknown to us, in 2013, they removed that from the capital improvement plan. So it happened that when we came back in with our development, we ended up building 10th Street to 40 feet. In fact, we even built a half street and all the sidewalks in front of the Catholic Church without any SDC assistance. So that was a little painful for us. But again, the improvements you're talking about at 10th and Birch are minimal. I'd be happy to work with Public Works to see what we can do with that. I know Public Works has budget for that kind of improvement easy enough. Our firm could contribute design or something like that. But again, no concern. But I would like to see if there's a potential for always stop at Knightsbridge Road and Birch. I don't know, Bob, if you looked at that, whether that was part of that scope.
Should I answer?
You can move. Yes, you can.
That's all I have to say. So I'll just mute myself again.
Love to hear from you, Bob.
I don't think we've ever really looked at that because we try to avoid implementing too many four-way stops in the city because it does slow down the traffic on a positive side and then a negative side. But if you think that that's worthwhile, we can ask, I'll bring it up at the next Traffic Safety Commission meeting and see if data can be arrived at those two passageways.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions from any of the commissioners? Hearing none, I will close the public portion of this and move to the any further questions. We will make a decision here in a minute. So we'll start with Commissioner Trundy. What are your thoughts on this project?
I think it sounds like it's a good project. The main part of it has already been approved. This is, in my opinion, just kind of a tweak to make it fit better with the piece of land. I think it sounds like a good thing. I do want to add, I want to just say, doesn't Canby have one of those like the carts that has the electronic speed sign on it? Doesn't the police department have one that they can move around town? Because this isn't the only road that people drive too fast on.
I believe they do, because I've seen those electronic signs on Birch numerous times over the last 25 years. So
yeah, so I don't know that having a developer invest in one to stick in one spot would be as helpful to the community as a whole as just having the police department get theirs out more often. I mean, I know I live on a raceway basically, so there's speeding people everywhere.
we're all in a hurry, that's for sure. Yes. You have any more comments, Commissioner Trundy?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Hutchinson, what are your thoughts?
I'm in favor of this final phase of this development. I think Canby's traffic woes are much larger than this small area. And we kind of need to take a look at our planning system as a whole. And I think that our master plan is a little bit behind the growth that is coming. And I think that if we are this concerned over this small of a development and the traffic it increases, then we need to be paying more attention and planning harder for the future. For the short term, I am in favor.
Thank you. Commissioner Heap.
Yeah, I guess I have this similar sentiment that, yeah, this, the traffic issue on Birch in this area is something to be addressed, but it's not within the purview of this specific project. So yeah, I'm in favor of the project as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Mills.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, just a real quick word. I'm going to vote to approve this project. I share everyone's concerns about the transportation ills that we currently have and that are probably going to get worse here in Canby. It's, you know, it's a natural nexus of planning between transportation and land use where one greatly affects the other. I'm always a little frustrated about the fact that there's not better coordination between the two, because with us being on the land use side, there are things that we can do, but they're pretty limited.
Very limited. Yes, thank you. I agree with the majority here that it is it's a well thought out project, and I'm going to vote to approve. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve to subdivide a 4.45 acre parcel into 15 single family lots for phase 4 of Northwood Estates subdivision SUB 21-01.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move, make a motion to approve it.
Do I have a second? Thank you very much. All in favor of approving SUB 21-01, say aye.
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 Mr. Chair,
Opposed? Yes.
I'm not
Commissioner Miller.
opposed, but I guess I have a question for discussion before we voted. I
Sure.
thought there were some changes in the conditions that would also need to be noted in the motion. I'm going to defer to staff on that.
If you want to adopt the additional condition of approval, Chair Savory, I believe you just need to read it as part of the motion to approve. Or Commissioner Heeb would have to as
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct. Commissioner Heeb would have to read that.
I can put it back up.
Okay.
One
That's-
second. There we go.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. So adding to that motion, the condition of approval being the pedestrian crosswalk to link, the third and fourth phases of the estates.
Okay. Does that work for our purposes there, Brianna?
Yep, I'll include it in the final findings, so you'll see it when you sign off.
Okay, so,
I continue to second.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. If I had a gavel, I'd gavel that down. So, but I don't have a gavel. I have a really nice ballpoint pen though. So, then on final decisions here, I will need a motion to approve Northwood Estates subdivision SUB 21-01 that we just discussed.
So moved with the conditions of approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Opposed? Okay. Okay, so we got that done. Items of interest from the planning staff to the commissioners. Brianna or Don?
Commissioner Savory, this is Don. Just a few items and just a reflection on some of the discussion tonight. The transportation system plan is in need of update in the city. We're intending to do that with a comprehensive plan update, and that would be from 2022 to 2024. The reason for the start date on that is we'd like to also have a baseline condition of the housing needs assessment, which we're going to be doing over the next year, which will also be doing at the same time the economic opportunity assessment. Economic opportunity assessment will address employment needs at the same time. The city is growing, and I think, we're getting comments obviously from the public on applications, which is great. Hopefully we'll have even more definition in the future. It's always a balance on these projects to look at things in light of the traffic and the impacts that will happen there. The goal is to try to stay ahead of that curve and have land use and transportation match up together. But that definitely is something on the horizon that we're looking at longer term. So just reflecting on the commissioner's discussion, there is a plan to update the plan, which is necessary, and it's for the long-term growth of the city and also the infrastructure of the city. And again, it's challenging to keep up with growth. I think, it's trying to find the right balance of growth between having too much and not having the infrastructure in place versus having no growth, which is also an equal problem to have. So it's those are all kind of always in balance here. The city is very much in the development mode in terms of both residential and employment lands as well. So we're seeing both of those fronts and a continuation of that. So we're looking to the future to try to basically keep tabs with those developments, as you guys will be continuing to see things coming forward. You guys and gals will be seeing things as they come forward to you. You'll be seeing other traffic discussions in the future over the next few months. And that was it. That was it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
In addition, we will be having our next meeting on May 10th, correct?
May 10th. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Chair Savory, if I may, just regarding the meeting on the 10th.
Yes.
I wanted to give a heads up. I may not be at that meeting. That week I will be at a work conference, and my boss is allowing me to get out of one work dinner. And as the chair of the city budget committee, I am going to prioritize that meeting over this one. So if I am not on the meeting on the 10th, that is why.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us a heads up. Any other comments from commissioners to staff at this point?
Wait, Jason, we're not important enough for you?
No, you are very important, but that is a much longer standing thing. And as the chair, I if I can get on this meeting, I will, but you just never know.
I'm just
My
giving you a
boss
bad
likes to
time.
go to bed early, so you don't know.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a bad time since I was on the budget committee before too, so.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Everybody
move
wants
we
to hang
adjourn.
around?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?